Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the meeting of the Corporate Parenting Board. My name is Megan Rochester, and I'm the Democratic Services Officer today. Please can I remind members and officers that this meeting is being live streamed, so can we please not discuss individual cases about children, as this would need to be done within exempt business. Can we please take the first item on the agenda, which is to elect a chair for the meeting? Do I have any nominations?
Yes, Councillor Biggs, I'm very happy to propose Councillor Kate Weller, who's done an excellent job, looks really diligently and keeps us all in line, so I'm very happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. And do I have a seconder?
Good afternoon, Councillor Ryan Holloway. Yeah, I'm very happy to second Councillor Kate Weller for chair of this Corporate Parenting Board. I think she's been doing a fantastic job, as Councillor Biggs has said, and I think she should be allowed to continue with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. And are there any other nominations? No? Perfect. Councillor Weller, would you like to take the chair?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, fellow members, for your confidence. I will try to continue in that vein. And my first task is to appoint a vice chairman for this board, and I'd like to nominate Councillor Biggs. And may I ask for a seconder, please? Councillor Carol Jones. Yes, I'm very happy to second. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any other nominations? No. Councillor Biggs, are you happy to accept? Thank you very much. In that case, Councillor Biggs will be the Vice Chairman. And can I offer my thanks? He's been the most amazing Vice Chairman, such a terrific support, and particularly over the last few months when I haven't been 100%. So thank you very much for carrying on. I'm very grateful. The next item on the agenda is apologies. Megan, do we have any apologies?
Thank you. We've received apologies for absence from Councillors Stella Jones and Kathy Lugg.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Lovely. Thank you. Before I go on, can I welcome Councillor Mark Roberts, who is new to the board. Very pleased to see you, and I hope you'll enjoy your time with us. In keeping with most of our committees, you'll find that there's a huge amount of paperwork to read through. We assume that everyone has done that diligently before they come, because when reports are presented, they are quite brief in giving people the opportunity to then ask questions. But I know that I'm teaching my grandmother to suck eggs in that respect, Mark, so welcome. The next item is minutes of the previous meeting, and I'm hoping that you've all had an opportunity to read those. Are you all happy with them? Any comments or changes that you feel you need to make? Everybody happy? You're happy that I sign those as a true record in due course? Yep, thank you very much. Do we have any members of the public for public participation? No? Good. I don't mean good, but you know what I mean. Good that we can move on. Thank you. Item 6. Teresa Levy isn't with us this afternoon, and Paul will be taking her place in just a moment. But I'm sure that this committee would like to extend our congratulations to Teresa in the nomination that she's recently received, and as far as I'm concerned, it's very, very well deserved. I think we're extraordinarily fortunate to have Teresa working with us. I'm sure she's a taskmaster, but a good one and a fair one. and she's certainly knocked us all into shape, or I feel knocked into shape if the rest of you don't. So that's terrific. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Baron Quayle, who has taken over as our portfolio holder from Councillor Andrew Parry. You have a very hard act to follow, Baron. Andrew has been a terrific leader to us over the last few years, so you're going to have to work pretty hard, but I'm sure you will, and we'll enjoy the journey together. So very much welcome to you. And I'm going to hand over to Paul now, please.
Hello, everybody. My name's...
Sorry, can I pass in just a moment, because I've just been reminded of something. We've changed the agenda very slightly. So after we've done the corporate parenting data set, we're going to go on to the Corporate Parenting Board annual report and then revert back to your agenda as it's printed there. Okay, thank you. I am sorry, Paul.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Paul Dempsey. I'm the Corporate Director for Care and Protection. Normally, Teresa would be starting off this meeting, setting the scene. So she's offered her apologies, so I'm going to try and do that. You've got a lot of detailed reports that we've already sent out, and officers will be going through this afternoon, and they are annual reports. So really a time to reflect on the year that we've had, 2022, 2023. It's been a really busy year, and I would say a productive year and a largely successful year, and you will see the details of some innovations that we've been delivering and implementing this year in the papers this afternoon, and some of them have been already really successful and impactful. In terms of our care population, it is a smaller population as we sit here reflecting on it today than it was this time last year. You will get some details of that over the next couple of hours. The proportion of the care population that are unaccompanied minors has gone up. That's another development over the year that we've seen. And the number of care leavers has also grown during the year. So changing demographics with the young people that we are working with. This year has seen the publication of the Independent Review for Social Care. I think that was in May 2022, and the government responded with their implementation strategy in February 2023. And we're all looking forward, local authorities across the country, to implementing that strategy over the coming years. So lots of work, but very exciting. I should advise people that we had a visit from our friends at Ofsted last week. They undertook a focus visit of our care leaver service, and it's very pleasing to report that the outcome was very positive. We should be receiving a draft letter of their findings just about today. I'm not sure if it's come in. It will have gone to Teresa, and they will we'll have an opportunity to have a look at that and send any comments back. And I think it will be published 23rd of June. Thank you, Claire. So looking forward to that. But as I say, very positive outcome there. Key headlines, they were very positive about our personal advisors and their knowledge and support to our care leavers. They were impressed with our partnership work with partners, for example, in housing and health and police partners. They were impressed with the progress we've made with accommodation for care leavers, and they were very impressed with how, as a partnership, we managed risk and exploitation to care leavers. So I thought members would like to hear that, because all very positive. So we have a new cabinet member, Byron. So I don't know if, Byron, you wanted to say hello just before we get going.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Chairman, for that welcome. It's what I've been hearing around the service from people about Andrew, and of course, there are big shoes to fill. I'm looking to do that. But just to say that I've been in children's services for the last 2.5 years as it is, and I work closely with Andrew, so it wasn't a complete stab in the dark to land here. And although there will be a few bumps along the way, I'm taking the time to read all the reports coming in, and you are right, they are quite lengthy. So it's consuming all my time at the minute, but I'm delighted to be here, and hopefully we can take this forward positively.
So it's me next on the data set.
Data set, that would be useful, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Lots of detail in the data set, if you've had a look. Given that we've got lots of reports and lots of detail in the individual reports, I'm going to focus on the infographics page at the beginning. So that's the page which starts with the pie chart of placement types. I'll just run through that and give you some comparison data with where we were last year. So there are 15 measures that we got on that infographics that we're trying to give you now at every corporate parenting board as a summary of how we're doing. And of those 15 measures, and I'm including the pie chart in that measure, we are doing better on 9 of them than we were at this time last year. We are doing the same on 3 of the measures, and we are doing slightly worse on 3 of the measures. So overall, largely demonstration of positive progress there. So I'll just go through that. In terms of our placement type, this time last year, 69% of our children in care were living in a foster placement. At the end of March 2023, that's gone up to 71%, and that's important because we want our children in care to live in families. The number of children in care, I indicated that had gone down. We, at the end of March, had 437 children in care. It was 448 last year, so slight reduction. And as I say, part of that reduction has been obscured slightly by the increase in number of unaccompanied minors. So that's positive. We're managing our care population well and supporting families to stay together. We don't manage to place all our children locally. We are striving to place more of our children as close to their communities as possible. At the end of March 2023, 42% of our children were placed over 20 miles away. We want to do much better than that, but this time last year it was 45%. So again, some level of progress there. On placement stability, there's a measure of long-term placement stability which measures the proportion of children in care for 2.5 years who've been in the same placement for the past 2 years, and 65% of our children in care have been in their current placement for 2 years. That's the same as it was last year, but on short-term stability we've got better. Short-term stability measures the number of children in care who've had free placement moves over the last 12 months, and at the end of this year it was 8% of children who'd had 3 moves. Last year it was 9%. So some progress there. Something we need to focus on now moving forward this year is completion of strengths and difficulties questionnaires. Last year we had them completed on time for 80% of our care population, and at the end of this year it's 64%. So we're disappointed with that. We know we need to work harder at that. We do also need to work harder at completing initial health assessments for children in care on time. They have to be completed within 20 days. At the end of March, the figure for that period was 50% were happening on time. It's not good enough, it needs to be 100%. But this time last year it was 0%. So some small measure of progress, but we are working hard with our health colleagues to address that, and you will see that a bit later on in the reports. Average attendance, school attendance for children in care was at 88%. We want to do better than that. That is one of the measures that it was the same as this time last year. Another one that is the same is that 100% of our children in care have had their personal education plan completed on time, so that's good. We had at the end of March 6 care leavers in bed and breakfast accommodation. It was 4 at March last year. Today, I can report that we've reduced that, and it is now 3 young people in bed and breakfast accommodation. 96% of our care leavers are deemed to be in suitable accommodation, so that's good, and it's higher than last year when it was 95%. And the proportion of our care leavers in education, employment and training at the end of March was 58%, and that compares to 50% this time last year, so we're really pleased that that is improving. Pathway plans, up-to-date pathway plans for care leavers at the end of March was 91% were up-to-date and completed, and it was 84% last year, so that's another improvement. In relation to adoption, 26 children were adopted from care in the year 2022-23, and that compares to 14 the year before. So, and that equates to 13% of children that left care via adoption, and that is just a bit higher than the national average and a good bit higher than our performance last year. So those are the key summary points on the data set.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just wondering on the attendance figures, do we have any comparison for all Dorset children, obviously excluding the known homeschoolers, and how do we compare with this data?
Thank you. So I can come in there. Amanda Davis, Corporate Director for Education and Learning, and here on behalf of Virtual School. So yeah, we are below our other attendance. So for other groups across Dorset, that is typical in the care leaver group and in the Virtual School group, but we are above other virtual schools. And we do have plus 90% attendance, which is about in line with other children in all areas other than Key Stage 4, which echoes what is happening in other children across Dorset. You may be aware that we have an attendance strategy and plan, which the DFE have signed off and ratified as exemplary practice. So they feel that our strategies are really robust and strong, and we're already seeing traction. So although this figure reflects, you know, a static kind of position, in other places, actually it's dropped significantly, and there's a real post-COVID story there. So some of the reasons for absence of our children is around emotionally based school avoidance, and what we look at very carefully is the difference between authorised and unauthorised absence. So a lot of our schools are actually authorising absence because it's about genuine illness. When it's unauthorised, that's where we really nestle in, and either Joe, myself as head of Virtual School, or a specialist teacher will attend a school, give support to the family that's the carer that's very, very proactive, and work very, very closely to get that child back into school. So I hope that helps.
I was just wondering really what the figures were for all children, obviously excluding authorised.
I can share those with you after the meeting, make sure they're available to everybody. We've just had a change in those figures, and they're slightly different for secondary and primary, but I'll make sure we share those with you.
Thank you. I just wanted to check in terms of the health assessments, is the problem with us or is it with the health service? And can we prioritise mental health, serious mental health, and make sure we push those through?
We are working with our health colleagues to make sure that the process is a smooth one. We in social care have to do a number of tasks before our colleagues in the health service can get on with the assessments. We've been striving to improve our process and practices so that they get the paperwork that they need to get on time. There's a consent form that we have to get off processed to our health colleagues within 5 working days. We are much better at that now. I think if we've got some health colleagues in the room, we have. There's also some difficulties with the workflow in health service and the capacity and the times in which the capacity can be used to offer an appropriate time for our children to get a health assessment. As I say, we have been working with colleagues in the health service to get that right.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Just to say that we are looking at this in great detail. Our new head of safeguarding has put together a stakeholder meeting to make sure that we're looking at every aspect to ensure that we can get the process as smooth as possible. So just to give you that assurance, and in terms of mental health, maybe looking at a different type of model to be able to support our children to make sure that it's child-centred all the way. Okay.
Thank you for that. Overall, I think our figures are looking good. We never want to be complacent about that. I've had a couple of opportunities in the last few months to talk to various members of staff within our children in care team, some new members of staff, and I've also had an opportunity, quite by chance, to speak to a number of our young adults in care and get some feedback from some of those. And we read in the newspaper often about our children in care being in bed and breakfast and how disgraceful that is and what a dreadful thing it is. And I've had two interesting conversations in just the last 6 to 8 weeks with young people who have said, actually, although it's not ideal being in bed and breakfast, it is so much better than what we had before. Please don't beat yourself up about it, because yes, we'd like to have our own little studio flats, bed sits, or whatever it is, but actually where we are is so much better than what we came from. And I think it's important that we know that. So whilst we should all be striving for it to be better, and with our health colleagues, we say this every time that we're behind the curve, but we know you're working really hard to get us ahead of the curve. So we don't ever want to beat you up on that either. But every one of us is working to be a little bit better. And that's what we should always be, even if Paul comes along and tells us that we're at 95%, 99%, 100%. We want to be 110, don't we? Because I say it every time, and I know that you're bored with it, but what we're offering to our children in care should be at least as good as what we offer our own children. Ryan, you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, it's no real other direct questions, because Councillor Roberts and Councillor Jones, you've already got in front of me. But certainly, the signs are is going in the right direction. I just want to clarify on a couple of points. Yes, certainly, I think with the attendance, I think that is something we do need to watch. I do agree there is probably a post-COVID legacy that is being added to that, but I think it is something we do need to watch. And I feel a bit more reassured that we've got a robust sort of plan in place, and we are seen to be doing better than other areas in the country. I take also, my colleague here as well about the health assessments as well. I think that's something as well we need to try and work and strive with our health colleagues to try and make that better and improve. I'm pleased with the responses that I'm getting as well. That I think that's certainly is sort of definitely more positive, I think, Madam Chair. But also pleased to hear that about further education, that those figures are increasing. I think that is really important for our young people to get on with further education, and also to make sure as well that they've got more of a diverse choice in further education as well, because particularly with our young people as well, some are not maybe as academic as others, and they more prefer the choice of either college or apprenticeship or finding a work placement. I think that is also very important as well to help our young people thrive in the county, and obviously making sure that they've got the skills they need to go in further life. Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to clarify the bed and breakfast issue. So our young people in bed and breakfast, and there are only 3 today, they are care leavers, and they're all aged 18 plus, so they're not children in care. So I just wanted to be clear for the notes, and thank you.
Councillor Biggs, Richard.
Thank you. We rightly concentrate on the overall numbers, but one of the things I always look at as well is the gender makeup. And we seem to have, I think, something like 46% more males than females, according to the figures there, if my calculations are right. I don't know, I'm making it... What is the gender sort of balance of our social workers? I'm not saying that outcomes would be any different. I just wonder, I suspect there's a lot more females, but I might be wrong. I just wonder if there's any research being done into whether that has any influence or not be an issue. I don't wonder. Thank you.
I can't give you the exact figures, but I certainly know that our workforce is overwhelmingly female. But as I say, unless any of my colleagues have got the figures, I can't give you the figures, and I'm not sure about any research about the impact of that. But of course, we know that we have to work with young men, young boys, and there are different issues facing young men, often to those facing young women. But yeah, the workforce is not representative gender-wise of children in care.
If there aren't any further questions on the data set, we'll move on to the Corporate Parenting Board annual report. And it's sort of called upon me to give an introduction on this, but I'm not really going to because everything is there and will be referred to as we work through. I'm really pleased with the annual report myself. I hope that you are. I think the format is much improved in terms of readability and the ability to understand those figures there. So I'm really just pleased to be able to present it, and I'm going to hand over to Paul to go through the contents of the annual report. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. So you have seen the introduction, and the introduction is a short introduction. One of the sections just sets out some of those innovations and developments that I was talking about. So in the past 12 months, we have opened College House, which is part of our harbour, in-care, edge of care provision for adolescents, and that is successfully looking after 2 young people. Currently, we have launched 2 Mockingbird constellations within our fostering service, and since March we have launched a 3rd constellation, and that's going really well with positive impact for carers and children. We worked hard to put a business case for uplifting the payments to foster carers, and that came to Corporate Parenting Board and was supported, and Cabinet supported that, and that has been implemented from April the 1st this year. And that's really good. We have invested in increasing the management and staffing in the leaving care service. We've launched Staying Close within the leaving care service to support young people leaving residential care. And we've opened our care leaver accommodation, self-contained flats at Kirkleton Avenue. So those are just some of the highlights of a really busy and, as I said, largely successful year. We do have a corporate parenting strategy. It was updated during the year to take account of the refreshed Dorset promise to our children and young people. We will have to refresh the strategy because the strategy is 21 to 23. We will draft a new strategy for 2024 to 2027, and that will be developed in partnership with Children in Care, care leavers and members of this board. And it will also account for the government strategy that I was talking about earlier, which is called Stable Lives Built on Love. And that's the response to the Independent Social Care Review. And you'll hear more details about all of those things later on in the individual service reports. One of the objectives was youth voice and participation. I can tell you that we have been continuing to respond to the wellbeing survey of care leavers, and we undertook another survey, a similar survey, wellbeing survey of our children in care just at the end of this year, and we should get the report from Core and Voice at the end of June. So we'll be bringing that to Corporate Parenting Board, and we'll be using that to inform our developments. And we have had some really good workshops at Corporate Parenting Board where young people have been able to share their views and opinions with officers and elected members, and I think that's been really good. We've already talked about health of children in care. That is something that we're aiming always to improve, and there are some areas, as we indicated with the data set, that we're working hard with our partners to improve. I can tell you that there is a review of the CAM service, so in relation to emotional well-being and mental health, and we in social care are leading that review with our partners. On our ambitions for children and education, progress and attainment, there are some strengths set out in the report. So there's been a reduction in the number of children on reduced timetables this year. There's been a reduction in the number of children missing education. 100% of our Year 13 students who applied for university were successful in being offered places. So we're really pleased about that. And as I've already mentioned, the percentage of care leavers in education, employment and training has improved. Really pleased with that. In relation to our safeguarding and permanence objective, as I've said, College House opened, so we've got more in-house residential provision for our children and young people. Those Mockingbird constellations have started, and we doubled the percentage of children securing permanence through supporting them to be reunified with their parents. So that went from 17% of children leaving care to 35% of children leaving care went back to their families, to their parents. So that's really good. Transitions, as I said, pathway plans, we're much better at them now. The quality has significantly improved, as noted by Ofsted last week, and 91% of them are completed in time. Kirtleton Avenue opened. We have 23 care leavers in stay and put arrangements with their previous foster carers. We're pleased with that. That's really good for our young people. And we worked with our housing partners to create a renewed joint housing protocol for care leavers. And that has had a positive impact for care leavers. And in relation to this board and governance, we met 7 times during the year. There were 2 formal meetings and the rest were workshops in which we could engage with young people, and those workshops were really good. We started to extend the membership towards the end of the year so that more corporate colleagues came. We felt that we needed more corporate directors, more corporate members involved, and we've also started to talk about community parenting and other organisations in the community. And we developed our data set. So our data set now includes that infographics and a bit more summary information, and feedback is that that's been helpful for members. So that's a really quick run through of that report, and as I say, it's a summary really of some of the things we do, and you'll see from the specialist reports coming up that you'll get much more detail.
Thank you very much, Paul. Richard, do you want to say anything? Does anybody have any questions for Paul on the annual report? Do any officers want to add anything? I think the report is really comprehensive. It's very, very helpful. But if there's anything that any of you feel you'd like to add to, it looks as though we've all read it and absorbed it. But does anybody want to add anything at all? Please do if you want to. If you're happy, then so am I. And all we're asked to do in the recommendation is for members to note the annual report. And I think that we can all agree that we've done that. Yes? Yes. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. We're back now on our agenda as it's written. So we come on to the fostering annual report. I'm sorry that all the annual reports come at once, but it's the nature of these things, I'm afraid. We always said that we'd really quite like it if it didn't happen, but it is what it is. I hate that phrase because people say that to you all the time, don't they? But it is what it is. So, Jerry, if you would like to present your report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Jerry Connell, I'm the Fostering Service Manager and also the Service Manager for Supported Lodgings. Apologies in advance for the long report. I've tried to cover as much information within that report, and what I will do is just go through and give a very sort of brief synopsis, if that's okay. I think similar to what Paul was saying, it was a very busy year. We were clearly faced with some of the challenges, as we're aware, particularly in respect to the cost of living crisis. But we responded to that, and it's hugely positive by Dorset Council about agreeing the 15% uplift for foster carer fees, and that's been really appreciated by our foster carers. And alongside with that, we also had the national increase in fostering allowance of 12.43%. So again, that's made quite a difference for our foster carers. And as I say, the feedback that we've got is hugely positive. I think the one huge highlight for us has been around Mockingbird, and obviously I'll come on to speak about that a little bit as well. The other thing as well that we've been able to do is with the embedding of the fostering dashboard, it means that we now have a very clear oversight of fostering data, and that's meant that the compliance in all has really increased over the last 12 months. In respect of recruitment and assessment, we had 169 fostering households at the end of March. Obviously, that was a drop from 191. I'll come on to talk a little bit about that from 12 months ago. But one of the interesting things within that is that from our in-house carers, from 12 months ago, we had a utilisation rate, i.e. the number of children per household, was sitting at 0.85%. That has now increased to 1.06%, so that's very positive. And in fact, looking at the figures to date, it actually gone up to 1.11. So I think, again, that shows in respect of how we are using our foster carers that we have, it's much more positive. Last year saw quite a dramatic drop in the number of inquiries and assessments, and it sort of happened from April, and there was more or less sort of a sheer drop. And again, looking at the potential reasons for that, one can obviously look at potential cost of living. Again, something that was quite significant as well was the Ukrainian crisis and the way that people stepped up to that. So I think, again, we lost some potential carers within that. So again, one of the hopes would be that as we know that a lot of the Ukrainians are now becoming more settled, and I know that from my neighbour that they had a wonderful family with them who've now got their own flat, that hopefully people who may be more interested in fostering will start to come to the forefront. The other positive thing is that we currently have 22 assessments on the go, and 9 of those are mainstream households. So again, sort of positively, hopefully we're moving in the right direction. Deregistration, obviously that's something that's always a difficult subject. And as sort of mentioned in the report, sort of nationally, you're looking at about a figure of about 13%. Again, we came under that, and we were looking at 11.5%. So again, I would say that is actually something positive when you're comparing it with the national figures. Recruitment and marketing has been something that we've really started to step up, and we've had wonderful support with an external marketing agency that came in, so it now means that our digital footprint is far better. I think there's still work to do on that. Hopefully some of you would have the opportunity of looking at the microsite as well. Again, there's still some work that we want to do around that, but I think compared to where we were and as to where we are now. And the real push we've had is trying to get out there and do face-to-face recruitment and try and get that interest coming from right across the county. And again, we've had Foster Care Fortnight. I'm in the middle of that at the moment. And, you know, for instance, all of us from the team have been out today. We're trying to leaflet people. And we are starting to get that interest going. And I think the difference now is that we are starting to get a footprint, and we've got to get that in Dorset. And it can take people, as you know, perhaps 1 year, 2 years to make the mind up that they do want to go into fostering. So as I say, there is work to do on that, but I've got to say the feedback from our foster carers, the feedback from the team is a real sense of impetus sort of moving forward. So from my point of view, I think that's really, really positive. And I think, as I said in the report, we'd had 68 face-to-face events, which again, sort of moving from only a few the previous year is, quite a step. Fostering panel, my esteemed colleague is sitting behind me, and obviously she can go into more detail. I think from my point of view, I've been really impressed at the chairing from Leanne. It's made a real difference. We are starting to see some really significant scrutiny from panel, and I think, again, we're starting to see the benefits from that. And again, I think the important thing is that most of our foster carers have been really impressed with that as well. So thank you, Leanne. Looking at fostering reviews, that has been quite a challenge for us in respect of the timeliness, and there's been a lot of hard work has gone into that, and I'm just pleased to report that as of today we only have 16 reviews that are outstanding. So considering where we were, again, I think that's sort of a huge positive stride forward. Moving on, looking at foster carer support, again, there's been a lot of work there. I would say the highlight around that has particularly been around the forums. So that was something that when Paul came in, you were very, very clear that that was something that we needed to sort of move on with pace. We had our first forum in November, Paul, didn't we? And we've had another 2 since then. And it's given a great opportunity for the foster carers to come along. And ultimately, it's a chance, obviously, for us to explain what we're doing within the service so they feel much more part of that. But equally, it gives the opportunity for the carers to be able to raise issues, and it gives us the chance to go away and then say, we have done this, this is how we've responded. So there's much more a sense, I would say, of connectivity within this. The other area, which is something that we're sort of very much working on, so we've got a lot of input into this, is around the therapeutic support for our carers, and I think that is really, really significant in terms of moving forward. And as I've mentioned in the report, we are doing some work at the moment in partnership with Sarah Naish. That's a trial that we're doing, so we're doing that with both our mainstream assessments but also with our connected persons as well. And ultimately, that is about ensuring that we have resilience for our carers, and that's going to provide stability. And I think it's making sure that as a service, and for children's services as a whole, that we work proactively rather than reactively. The other area of support which has been really appreciated is from the Dorset Foster Care Association. So again, we continue to work in partnership with them, and again, we've had some sort of really sort of positive support over the last 12 months. So again, that is really important in respect of ensuring that we have that joint work going on and that connection between ourselves and the carers. The other thing I'd like to mention is the Long Service Awards, and I suppose that's a particular mention to Councillor Andrew Parry as well, who presented the Long Service Award to one of our carers. It was a successful evening. I'm just going off what our foster carers said in respect of that. And certainly the view from our carers was one of feeling really valued, really appreciated. And it's something that moving forward is what we want to do, is extend it. I think the one area for development there is about ensuring that our children are part of that day. So I think we still carry on with the award, but also we have something with our children involved in that. Complaints, we had 13 complaints about the fostering service, 6 of which were upheld. Allegations, there was 20 referrals to LADO, and the interesting thing is that from those, we had none of the cases were referred either for a Section 47 or for a DBS inquiry. DBS report. So again, I think that is positive. And again, I think hopefully that reflects upon the proactive work that we're trying to do. And we particularly see that with whenever we're aware of issues within a placement, that we're holding a stability meeting and we're trying to get in there really, really quickly. Foster carer training, 154 training courses was delivered to 317 foster carers. One of the challenges that we've had is that we use 3 platforms at the moment to deliver that online training. And that's something which, again, we have addressed, and we're in the process of being able to deliver tablets to all of our foster carers, and the difference that that's going to make, both in terms of clearly GDPR, but also ensuring that foster carers only have one port of access, particularly in terms of training, because they can have a linked password, is really significant. And again, things like that are going to make a big difference, because that's something that we can use in terms of how we sell being part of Dorset. Very quickly, in terms of budget, again, I'm sure it's a figure that everybody is aware of, but I think the one thing I would like to mention is that as an average figure, every time that we can't place a child or young person with a Dorset foster care, and if they're going to an IFA, that is looking at potentially a cost of £450 extra. And I think that really, really shows the work that needs to be done in terms of recruiting our in-house carers. And I think the other thing that we know is that actually the service that our foster carers provide to our children is as good, if not better, than any other provider can give. So I think that's really important. Final thing is Mockingbird, and that has been a huge positive for us. So we have 3 constellations now. We are working towards having 6 by the end of the year, and that would mean that we'd be looking at having 25% representation from our fostering households. And again, I'm sure you're all aware of the stability that that provides to our children and our young people, and the outcomes that are achieved from that. And all of that data is obviously available through the fostering network. And again, most importantly, the feedback from our foster carers has just been amazing. And from those constellations, they are saying the difference that it has made is huge. So again, a huge positive for us. Thank you. I'm open to any questions.
Improvements that we're making incrementally, it's been very, very positive. Richard?
Yeah, it's interesting that there's so much good things, but clearly the recruitment is a concern, I suppose. And clearly there's plenty of really fantastic work going out there too, as you're doing at the moment. I just wonder if there's any sort of correlation looked at other authorities who perhaps spend more, whether it's just about money or how you do it. If we threw a lot of money at it, would we, has somebody sort of worked out whether that's a good plan to do, or we got it about right?
Thank you for the question. I think, unfortunately, as in life, there is usually some correlation with money. I think it's about making sure that it is targeted, though. And I think the key thing is that we know that the challenge for us is with our teenagers. And we've seen, haven't we, that the care population has changed significantly. So there's more and more young people coming into care where those challenges are. So I think that's something that we are currently looking at, and we have to consider how we can get both our current foster carers, but more importantly, how we can attract across carers who are sitting with independent fostering associations to come and join us, who are going to be able to take those teenagers on. And something that I've been sort of following is that Bristol have a campaign at the moment where they've had quite a significant campaign, and certainly that's been financially led. We also have Somerset at the moment who are working on a sort of standard fee to their foster carers, and saying that we are looking at holding foster carers who will only take teenagers or challenging young people. So again, that's something that we need to explore, and obviously that's some of the work that we're trying to do with our own foster carers as well, to see what would make the difference and how can we try and get people to say, yes, I would take a 3 or a 4-year-old, but why would I not take a teenager? And obviously some of that is clearly around the support.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to Jerry's answer on that, I think the service does need investment, and we have invested, so thank you for the Council for that, and the financial support for our carers is now significantly better than it was. However, I think it's a more complicated picture than that, and what we really need to do is show our foster carers and anyone else in the public in Dorset who is vaguely thinking about fostering that we are a really good service to work for, because there could be a foster carer for someone else, and when we make decisions in life, it's not always just about the financial element, is it? Foster carers need to be supported. They want some of those things Jerry was talking about, you know, psychological support groups where they can mix with peers, social workers who turn up when they say they're going to turn up, do regular visits on time, the children's social workers doing the same thing, the council, all of us together, supporting carers, using our leverage to make sure that our carers feel really part of the council team and really, really valued. And we are working really hard at making our carers feel valued so that if they speak to anyone, their friends or family, and they're talking about fostering, they say, yeah, if you're thinking about fostering, you know, go to Dorset because we do it. And, you know, it's a really good service. So I think this year we've turned some of that round. As Chair, you were acknowledging the service has made some improvements, and carers are more likely now than they were a year ago to say to their colleagues, yeah, it's a good experience fostering for Dorset. So, yeah, do that. And, by the way, the financial package is okay and they've just improved it. So it's a mixed picture and we're working on all of it.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Certainly the meeting with the Mockingbird team and the foster carers within that, you're really getting a buzz about that whole thing, that the support, a complete wraparound support on that has been terrific. Just going to bring Jerry in and then Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. You actually stole my thunder. I was going to talk about Mockingbird because I think that is the thing that makes us stand out from the other independent fostering providers, and that is a big, big selling point for us, and that's something that we really need to promote, and is what some of you may have noticed as well, is that on our recruitments now, on all of the advertising, we put Mockingbird up there as well. So I think, again, that's a sort of key pressure point for us. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I think that it would be very interesting to do a mystery shop type exercise, and I would like to suggest somebody from this committee takes this forward and actually to phone as a potential foster carer to some of the independent agencies and to actually see what they're saying, because what we're talking about is getting people that are perhaps dissatisfied with an independent agency, but we actually want to get them right at the beginning. And if we understand exactly what, because they will say, I mean, we know they're not delivering everything that they promise, but what we actually need to understand is what are they actually saying? How are they getting them in the first place? And therefore, how do we approach what we have to say and the way that we put it across? I think we assume that we know, but I think we should actually carry out an exercise and drill down into it a little bit further.
An interesting idea, Councillor Jones. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. This may be naivety on my part, but I'm quite interested in how we try and manage the aspirations of foster and looked after children to ensure that they're not left behind. And one of those, it was just occurring to me because of involvement with schools and school trips and post-COVID. Do we have a metric for children who have passports and don't have passports? Because that simple fact could deny them that aspiration of joining their fellows on a trip, or with foster parents who might possibly not be able to take those children abroad when they go with the rest of the family. So is it something we look at? Is it something we measure? Or should we be?
We probably should. We do everything we can to ensure that our children and young people have passports, so we support and encourage our foster carers in partnership with the social worker for the child to make the application for the passports. Theresa Levy, as Director of Children's Services, has to sign those off as the corporate parent, and then they go off to the passport office. Where young people don't have passports, this is quality checked by our reviewing service, so that's the sort of thing that will be flagged up and escalated. I've had an escalation over the last month, actually, about a child that didn't have a passport. So people are encouraging, supporting, and where it's not happening, they're raising it to senior officers like myself and others, including Theresa Levy. So we are very much onto that. I don't think we've got a performance measure on it, so that is something that we can take up. And if I may respond to the other comment about mystery shopping, I think that is a good idea. I have done that in other places, and it does give you an idea of the sort of offer that is around, and also mystery shop in our own service.
More recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. Kay Wright, Youth Voice Manager. I was just coming in on the passports, if that's okay. I know Matt Chislett's here as Service Manager for care leavers, but as young people are approaching leaving care, one of the things that the workers are doing together is making sure that those young people absolutely have a passport by the time they turn 18, if that's not happened already. And the personal advisors in the service would be making sure that that happened. It's absolutely crucial that they have that by 18 if it's not happened already. So I would say nearly all care leavers probably have a passport.
Reassurance, Mark, you wanted to come?
Yes, it wasn't only that age groups, because primary schools do trips, and it was making sure that our children didn't miss out on that. And do we have, I'm aware that some schools have funds to top up, but do we have a fund to top up to ensure that they don't miss out? I assumed we would have.
I can do. Did you want me to just give a brief overview of my reports and highlights and then see if anyone wanted to ask any questions? No, I think we're right on time with that. Thank you. My name's Leanne Chorley. I'm the Independent Panel Chair for Dorset's Fostering Panel. This is my second annual report to Corporate Parenting Board, my first one with a full 12 months to reflect on the panel and its processes. You've had the report, so I will keep it really brief and then open up to questions afterwards. Over this reporting period, we've had 34 panels with a total of 139 cases being heard. 12 panels over this period were cancelled, and there's been 2 training opportunities provided for panel members, which were great training and attachment and Teams training, so it was wonderful for members, alongside online training now being available for panel members. Panel membership currently sits at 14, and we're looking to increase this in the coming months just to increase our diversity of panel, different perspectives and different skill sets. Over this reporting period, we've really seen some positive changes alongside the implementation of the new processes to operate panel more efficiently and in a more timely manner, including, but not exclusive, of the independent quality assurance feedback documents and joint pre-panel preparation. Panel has, through this process, also achieved further stability from the appointment of a fantastic panel advisor who is an advanced practitioner. She's been with the panel for 12 months now, and the stability that has come from this and the consistency has been incredible. When I was sat here 12 months ago, maybe my report was maybe quite different to how it is this year. There's been a lot of meaningful and calculated relationship building and communication between panel, myself and the service. When I was appointed, maybe it wasn't a positive experience for people who attended panel and for people who sat on panel. It's safe to say that this is not the case now. There has been a significant cultural shift, a transformation in both attitude and experience. This is evidenced by the feedback all round, which indicates that people's experience of panel is positive and strength-based, one of high challenge and scrutiny, yet with mutually respectful communication. In my opinion, stability has been achieved for this panel and for those who attend. You'll see in section 6 of my reports, I highlight some themes and observations of panels, and section 7 highlights the developmental work and future plans. With everything in these sections, I have found that the senior management and officers involved in this within the fostering services have always been open to panels' observations, being quick to react if needed, and solution-focused, with a strong desire to work in partnership with myself and panel to drive forward any changes needed in the best interest of Dorset's foster carers and, importantly, the children in care themselves. I will highlight that coming works, which I'm very excited about, are the Children in Care Fostering Panel, which we will be piloting in the summer holidays, and future works around evidence in the voice of the child and what this will look like moving forward, as well as the intention to build on the relationship with panel and the childcare team. Lastly, I just want to say I'm really impressed with the investment in potential future Dorset foster carers, both in mainstream and connected, as Jerry was saying about working alongside Sarah Naish, and by being the first local authority in England to pilot these therapeutic parenting assessments. That's a huge achievement for Dorset. So that's working alongside the Centre for Excellence in Childhood Trauma. This really evidences and highlights the commitment to ensuring not just the foster carers, but the children themselves will get the best possible start to their fostering journey with Dorset Council. And honestly, in a couple of decades working with local authorities and on panels, I've never seen social workers so excited for a change in paperwork and process as I did on those 2 training days. That's it from me. Any questions?
Because you certainly delivered on the promise you gave us 12 months ago, and more power to your elbow, really. We're definitely moving in the right direction. Those members who are on the fostering panel are certainly reporting a much more positive experience than they were 12 months ago. So thank you very much. Do we have any questions, please? No? 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 Thank you. We just have to agree, the recommendation is to agree to note, and I think we can say that we've noted and we've asked. And Jerry, I know you want to dash off to your fostering event, so thank you very much indeed. And thank you for all of the extra things. Jerry and I met up on Weymouth Prom on Saturday, where fostering staff had walked along with their dogs and their children and Uncle Tom Cobley and all, and were clearly having a wonderful time. It was, of course, it was Weymouth, so of course it was a beautiful day and the sun was shining. But it was a very positive event, so thank you for that and all the other things that you've been doing over the last 12 months. And off you go. Well, as my grandson always says, off you pop. I hate being told, off you pop. It's rather dismissive, I think, of your grandma, but there you go. Thanks very much. We come now to the adoption annual report. Please, Anne.
I'm Child and Service Manager for Aspire Regional Adoption Agency. I have been recently appointed. Aspire have had nearly 2 years' worth of interim service managers, so this is my first annual report. I will keep it brief. There have Aspire are made up of 4 teams, which are recruitment and assessment, a family finding team, a post-adoption special guardianship support team, and a special guardianship assessment team. So there's 4 very distinct roles within Aspire. But looking at the adoption data, there have been an increase in should be placed for adoption decisions this year. There were 25 made compared to 11 from last year. There has been an increase of placement orders made, which is the authority to place a child for adoption. There have been 19 placement orders made, which was an increase from 11 the previous year. We have observed that there had been a longer time period for some placement orders being made. However, since January, the courts have begun to refocus on the 26-week timescale, so we're hoping they'll be much quicker coming through for those children identified. As Paul said, there has been an increase in adoption orders made. There were 26 adoption orders made compared to 14 in the previous year. We have also seen an increase in the number of harder to place children coming through, which has meant that we've had to work quite hard to change our recruitment strategies and marketing to try and recruit adopters that are willing to take those harder to place children, which are defined as those aged 5 and above, ethnic minority children and sibling groups. And we have seen a rise in those coming through from Dorset. We have currently 10 children, as you can see from the data, waiting with placement orders to be matched. Since writing this report, the information is a lot more positive. Out of the 10 children, waiting to be matched, 9 were deemed harder to place. Of those 9, we have now booked 6 of those children into matching panel for May and June, which leaves they were 6 children who were harder to place, so sibling groups, and older children. There was 1 child who wasn't deemed harder to place, who's also booked onto matching panel. And there's 1 sibling group that's currently further thought is going on about whether they should be placed as sibling group or not. That leads me on to the timeliness. We have seen a significant increase in the timeliness of children being placed and matched for adoption. That's something we're working on very closely with Dorset to address. Aspire have improved their family finding offer, and they implemented that from May, which is a much more robust meeting, targeting, monitoring and escalation policy both ways. There's more monitoring going on between both local authorities. And what we are seeing, though, is most, if not all, of the children that that should be placed for decisions have been made on are being placed for adoption. There were only 3 should be placed for decisions reversed during the year, and they were, of those 3 decisions reversed, 2 went home, went to family, and 1 remained in long-term foster care. With recruitment and assessment, we strive to keep 25 to 30 adopters available for children. We have seen a decrease in the number of inquiries and the number of approvals for adopters. That is a national trend at the moment. From the Core and BAF data sets, there's 27% less approved adopters at the end of Q3 compared to last year. We do currently have, I think, 28 approved adopters, and we have a number coming to panel. We have recently seen an increase in inquiries coming through. Early permanence is where the children are placed pre-order or post-placement order, ideally pre-order, and the idea is that it limits the children's move, so they will be placed with adopters approved as foster carers, and then either return to birth family, or if the decision is made to adopt, they will remain with their adoptive parents. There was a decrease last year, and we have instigated and set up training in partnership with Dorset. So we're delivering training to Dorset on early permanence, and we've delivered training to the judiciary on early permanence as well. And just last week, I think a sibling group of 3 were placed in their early permanence or this week, sorry, were placed in their early permanence placement. So what we're hoping to do is increase the use of early permanence and do some myth busting around that. With recruitment and assessment, like I was saying, we have had a lull, but that's a national trend. What we are doing is increasing marketing for that. we are going to be launching a new recruitment drive. We're doing that in partnership with Dorset and the other local authorities that we're also as part of the regional adoption agency. We have post-adoption and special guardianship support. We're obviously seeing an increase in that as more children are becoming subject to special guardianship orders, and the increase in the adoption orders being made. We work closely with the Adopters and Special Guardianship Forum, and we are currently providing support to, I believe it's 86 parents have attended training and workshops with Aspire. We hold regular training and workshops for adopters and special guardians. There's currently 167 children open and receiving direct support. We have moved into a new three-tiered process. So there's a duty system, a universal system, and a targeted support system. That's working really well, really manageable. We've had some very positive comments. We've seen an increase in the use of the Adoption and Special Guardianship Support Fund, which is used to provide therapeutic input to families. And this year, in the past year, there were 368 families with a claimed amount of £473,000 in support. That is ongoing and increasing. We've had feedback that we are making changes, that parents are benefiting it. Obviously, we're doing more work relating to that. We are also able to provide our own therapeutic support, which we're doing. There was an adopter forum survey last year which influenced where we were going, and we've had feedback from that what they wanted, the social events, the walks, the holistic family support we're providing, and they're pleased with it. With the Special Guardianship Assessment Team, this is a team that undertake all special guardianship assessments at the moment for Dorset and BCP. We've seen a significant increase in referrals to that service as the local authorities, Dorset are looking more to keep children within the family. And last year, there were 81 referrals made by Dorset for special guardianship assessment and 61 special guardianship assessments filed with the court. However, that's not reflective of the number of special guardianship orders that are being made, so we're doing some work into looking into that. And I think adoption panel, that has met, sorry, I need to find it. That has met adoption panel, it's been meeting virtually twice a month, and this year they made 35 approvals, 35 matches, and 8 deregistrations. We also provide the birth parenting services for Dorset, and unfortunately they were commissioned from Families for Children who went into liquidation or closed in the summer. So we worked with another voluntary adoption agency, PACT. They took over the support and the contract for that, and that was then up and running in September. They're currently providing support to 87 families, birth families direct, following the should be placed for adoption decision or the adoption order having been made. I'm happy to take questions, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jones.
Sorry, yes, thank you. I can see under finance that you're probably going to come in over budget. How how is that likely to be rectified? And I also was just wondering about the level of work, because I can see we're sort of fairly evenly matched with financing from BCP and Dorset. What is the workload compared from one to the other? Is one side busier than the other? I mean, how does that work out? And let's talk money. Come on.
The budgets are similar. The workload is similar, apart from Aspire take case responsibility for all the children for BCP from the point of care and placement orders, whereas with Dorset we provide a family finding service for children over the age of 2, and we case hold for the children under the age of 2. But workload is predominantly the same. It balances out through the year. So, you know, some referrals for the SG assessment team could be more from Dorset, and I believe this year they were higher from BCP than they were from Dorset, but previously they were the other way round. The children coming through are roughly the same with should be placed for adoption decisions, and again that can peak and trough depending on the care plans for the children, really. With the overspend, we've just had strategic board, and that was agreed that Aspire had contributed pretty much all of their reserves to that, and the overspend was then met by BCP and Dorset. But saying that, since then we have developed income streams through our own provision of delivering therapeutic services via the ASF funding. And currently we're predicting about 28,000, between 24 and 28,000 this year.
I think I've got Councillor Biggs and then Councillor Rogers. And did you want to come back after that, Councillor Jones? Okay. Councillor Biggs.
I've only got one question because the finance was my question too. So thanks for that. On page 62, near the bottom, there's reference to Aspire have made links with Homes for Good, which is a faith organisation, which is an evangelical organisation, I understand. Is that just raises slight concerns for me, and that the checks and balances are there. You know, this is adoption long term. Are the children going to be put in positions where they might not be comfortable if they don't want to go to church services, etc.? You know, I think it's a question that's fair to raise us as corporate parents to hear your view on that, please.
Yes, that's a fair question. And no, the children wouldn't be put in that position. What we're using them for is recruitment and marketing. And I believe Families for Children were also a faith-based voluntary adoption organisation. And obviously, they are fully assessed and approved at panel. So what we're using them for is to widen our marketing and our recruitment policy as we would just building more relationships to get Aspire's name out there. I believe they already run adoption support groups, which is another reason we're building relationship with them.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
It's not really a question, it's just an observation that the makeup of the boards and constituent councils and post holders refer to pre-unitary in almost all cases. And I wondered, is there a need for that to be updated to reflect, or is that because that was how the board was set up, but those councils no longer exist, nor do some of the office holders? And I just wondered how that affected positions on the two boards.
Viewed at the moment, but there was an updated inter-authority agreement undertaken in March 2019 to incorporate the two changes between Dorset and the amalgamation of Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole as a local authority. So the inter-authority agreement has been updated since then, so I think we do need to reflect and reword the other materials.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Paul?
If I could just add a comment to the question before last about that Councillor Biggs asked about that organisation and being faith-based. The decisions about where children are placed and which families they're placed with Dorset Children is ultimately made by me as the agency decision maker, and before it comes to me it is Dorset social workers and Dorset local authority team managers that are looking at families for children and making decisions about that family being right or not for a particular child. So they will have detailed assessment reports on those families and questions of suitability. And the question I think you were asking Councillor Biggs about families with families of faith and how that matches a particular child or young person, that is very much looked into. So it isn't Aspire that make those decisions. It actually is Dorset. Ultimately, that's my decision.
Thank you, Paul. Again, that's reassuring. Yes, Richard, thank you. Thank you very much for your report. We come on to children in care and the CLIC strategy. I think we've got Simon Fraser-Brown on a video link somewhere on Teams.
I am here, Chair.
Well done, well done. I'll hand it to you.
I'm going to hand over to Kay Wright, who is the Youth Voice Manager and leads on some of this. And just a quick reminder that I do need to step out at 4:30, Chair, as per my email earlier, but I will leave you in Kay's capable hands.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Good afternoon. So Kay Wright, Youth Voice Manager. I will make this really brief so that you can make sure you can ask Simon your questions too. So I've also got Anne Hay with me today. So Anne's a Youth Voice Officer in my team and spends a lot of her time and her work with children in care and care leavers. So I really want her to be a little bit more visible to you all so you know who's working in that space with our children. So our apologies, first of all, our report doesn't seem to have made it to the pack. So we've prepared some slides to present, that's why they're here. So of all the little holes in the system, there was just that one and my report fell in it. So apologies, but we're going to send it round afterwards. And so hence why we've got a couple of slides today. My colleagues have also stolen a lot of my content, so it will be even briefer. Right, so I'm going to click and present. So let's see if I can manage this. No, already failed. There we go. So an overview of the last year, we've had 57 care experienced children and young people engage in a variety of activities that we host throughout the year. We've noted that 20 of those are aged 16 to 23, which will show that we are seeing more children who are under that 16 bracket. So we know that that's a space for us to do a little bit more work. And the reason we're meeting a lot of those younger is because of all the work that we've been doing in the fostering space with the Mockingbird project. We love Mockingbird and going to those events. But the fostering family days and the Mockingbird really provide us with an opportunity to get to know those children, build relationships with them. And so, you know, where we were trialling that over the last year, those family events, we've been meeting children again and again now and building those trusting relationships and bringing them into engagement spaces with us, which is how we like to do things. And yes, we've had a range of activities. Young people just like to share an opinion sometimes, and of course that's absolutely fine, through to full co-production. We've had young people sit on interview panels and attend corporate parenting board, which Paul referenced to earlier. So some of the examples which are in the report when you get it, but we have co-produced the Dorset Promise, and I heard Paul reference that as well. So this is now published and live on the Dorset Council website. And again, it was lovely to achieve full co-production from start to finish on that piece of work. And the Promise actually, we're keeping it alive by making sure that it informs all the informal corporate parenting board workshops. So making sure that those are themed, that keep us thinking about the Promise and what that means in that space together. Children in Care views about advocacy have helped to shape the specification of a potential new contract. And young people have been involved in some new Moving Well guidance, which has been created for the workforce, and a new policy sits in our Tri-X folder. So that's really helping to make sure that children always move with dignity and pride. And this was influenced when I visited the National Leaving Care Benchmarking Forum in National Care Leavers Week last October with 2 care leavers. And they were able to meet the founder of MadLug, the organisation. I don't know if you've heard of that. Have a look online for it. And so we've also, to complement that work, we've had a donation of 300 MadLug bags to Dorset, and we're distributing those in all of our locality teams and our CHAD and fostering service as well. So that's been a really great piece of work, and it's backed up by a video by Teresa to the workforce on how to use that and making sure that young people also have the right luggage at the right age, depending on what they're doing with their lives. Oh, I've got a click. There we go. So care leavers have also been involved in co-designing the look and feel of the shared lounge at Kirsalton Avenue. So getting the environment right is obviously incredibly important. So we had some engagement last October, some further engagement with the new residents about what that space should look and feel like to make it feel homely, and the stuff that's really important and the knickknacks that need to go in there to make it feel like a space they want to be in. Care leavers who had experienced residential care and emergency accommodation have helped to inform a new guide for young people who may find themselves in that situation, and also it informs the start of the Staying Close pilot. We really needed to make sure we took a trauma-informed approach to that work. It's very sensitive and delicate, and we must never do any harm when we want young people to inform our work. So really sensitive piece of work, but really important to hear their stories and their voices in that. Care Leave Service, there's been a new independence toolkit that they developed with and for young people, so a great piece of work by that team, and young people were influenced in the content and design of that. And there's also a new pathway plan format being used by the service, and again, young people last year shared their views on the current one, which has influenced some change, and perhaps we could do a little bit more testing on that over the next year. And I've already mentioned Mockingbird, but I'll just say it again because we love Mockingbird. But it's been great. We've been at every launch party, and it is a party. So some future work for us, again, there's a little bit more in the report when you get it. So Care Leaver Delivery Group, so another sort of part of the system where we're really looking at the actions and the things that we've got to do. So Anne is working now on health, wellbeing and relationships with young people, and she'll be bringing that to Informal Corporate Parenting Board at the end of July. To report so far what young people have been saying. So, and that's not just been decided by Care Leaver Delivery Group. Obviously, that's informed by what New Belongings, Care Leavers told us in New Belongings in that research with Coram, and this was their second and third priority around health, wellbeing and relationships. So that's become the focus of our team to really understand what needs to be done to make the difference to that area. I've also talked about the Young Persons Fostering Panel that Leanne and Anne and I have been having conversations about and beginning to work on, and we're going to be looking to host that 4 times a year for our mainstream carers. And finally, around the Young Commissioners Programme, obviously that's currently in development. We're really excited about getting that off the ground, but there's going to be some training for that, and our care experienced young people will be included in and given the skills to really get stuck into that analyse, plan, do and review work. So I look forward to you getting the report and coming. Oh, Anne said, plug the takeover challenge. I think it was on the slide. I might have deleted it, Simon, sorry. So we've also got takeover challenge coming up in July, and we've got our children in care and care leavers are a priority group to get involved in that as well. So thank you, Anne. So yeah, hopefully you'll get the report after this meeting. If there's anything you want to come back to me on, please get in touch with me. But obviously, if you have any questions now, be really happy to take them. And it's 1 minute before Simon has to go, so... Thank you, Councillor. So Takeover Challenge is, and if you don't know about it, maybe we could get you to sign up, Councillor. Takeover Challenge offers young people the opportunity to get in the spaces with decision makers, and we're hoping that Councillor Quayle, sorry, it will embed in my head, we'll be doing the Youth Grant Fund, and a young person will co-chair that during the time. So we've got lots of people in the room have already signed up to Takeover Challenge, including Matt Prosser. And over that 2-week time, people can get involved for an hour or more than a day, whatever they're available to do through their school time. And yeah, get stuck into helping us with decisions and seeing things through their eyes. We had a lovely piece last year where children and young people helped with the education update, and 2 young people with autism wrote the articles about autism that they wanted to go in Amanda's update. Well, it was Vic at the time, but in the education update. And Paul had someone take over last year in one of his meetings. I had someone take over some training for me. So it's a really lovely opportunity to bring young people into our spaces and share some of that power with them. Should we sign you up? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kay. I think we've said that we'd quite like young people to take they're already taking an active part in our informal meetings, but it would be really good if any of them wanted to step up to chair the informal meetings or co-chair. I think that would be really very, very useful. So thanks. When we've received the report, do colleagues drop a line to Kay if you've got anything further that you need to ask. Okay, you're right. Good. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Is Mark Rogers online as well? Or...
Good afternoon, Chair. Yes, I am.
Thank you. Welcome. And would you like to go ahead and present your report?
Thank you very much, which I do believe is in your pack. So hopefully you had the opportunity to look beforehand. So very, very briefly, I am the independent chair of the Birth to Settled Adulthood Board, and in that capacity, I am non-executive in relation to this programme and provide advice, support and challenge clearly to the programme in hand. And the report that you have in front of you is actually the second of its kind, and gives you will give you a kind of clear view about where the programme has reached thus far. So the perspective you're getting is of somebody who's not either of the council or the NHS system in Dorset, and neither part of the Dorset Parent Carer Council, who are also part of this partnership. I'm somebody who is at arm's length from the organisations who are delivering this piece of work. So what I wanted to say to you today was, this is a programme that is scheduled to complete in March of next year, March 2024, and therefore is just a little over halfway through its work. The first year of the programme was very much about setting foundations down, and the second year that we are now presently in is much more around all of the partners working together to agree how services and pathways should be redesigned for the greater benefit of children with special educational needs and disabilities. So we've moved from an initial period of I think forming the partnership, strengthening the partnership, and being clear about all the work that needs to be undertaken, into a phase where that work is now being undertaken, and in not too distant a time, we will start to see the proposals for the future shape of services and the nature of the pathways that will be used to guide youngsters from 0 to 25 through the assessments and services that they will require. At this stage, the report I've made kind of focuses on both a number of strengths in the partnership and a number of risks that the partnership needs to continue to take into account. So it is pleasing to be able to report that over the period since this work has been underway, so the beginning of last year, in other words, there is a strong partnership within the council, and there is a growing strength to the partnership between the council and the NHS Dorset organisations that are integral to the success of this work. There is still more to be done to continue to build that partnership. As I'm sure you are aware, there are a whole range of both planned and often unplanned activities that will take officers' time in different directions. The council, for example, has experienced inspections in children's services, and they are just completing a peer challenge in adults. In the health environment, as you, again, I'm sure know, the inception of ICB last year means that they are still forming into a more regular pattern of working with the council, and that there are massive distractions within the ICB because of the pressures on its finances. But nonetheless, I still want you to be aware that the partnership is strong enough to undertake and complete this work, but it needs to continue to work hard to maintain that strength and be focused on the timelines that it's working to. I think the second thing I want to say about this work is it is benefiting greatly from having a programme director dedicated to driving the activities forwards, and there is some assurance for me that the programme will stay on track because of this investment in that programme director resource. So I'm very positive about that. I think the next point that I would like to make is in relation to the detailed service redesign work, pathway redesign work that is underway, the key partners, and that does include the Dorset Parent Care Council, the key partners have signed a joint declaration about the way they are going to work together to maximise the likelihood of a successful end result. And that key declaration is more than just words. It is an expression of the commitment of all the partners to make this work. And I think it represents a significant kind of step change from previous efforts to undertake reform in this area. I think the next point I would like to emphasise, and I'm mindful of being in front of elected members, is there has been extremely good, diligent, informed political commitment to this work. And notwithstanding some recent changes in the cabinet, I remain persuaded that that political oversight and commitment will continue. And I have also been previously asked to make reports to the People and Health Overview Board as well, to ensure that it's not just the executive of the council that has good, is well cited on this programme. And then finally, and this may kind of, be perhaps more technical than my other points, but the programme itself has been well assembled. The principles of programme and project management have been applied. So there are clear work streams, there are clear activities within the work streams with milestones and outcomes attached to them. There is good reporting. There's a risk register, for example, as well. So it is clear that the programme itself has been put together well, and it is possible to track the progress that is being made. So all of those things add up to me being encouraged that the programme is on track, can stay on track, and will deliver in time. But I also think it's worth making the board aware of the risks that will need managing if indeed this piece of work is to conclude successfully. I think perhaps the most important thing to say is this is an area that already attracts considerable funding, both from the council and the NHS Dorset organisations. And there needs to be a clear commitment, both in the short and long term, to ensuring that there is sufficient funding for the new service model and pathways to be implemented and sustained over time. Now, that's a risk rather than a problem. I want to be clear about that. So a piece of work is being undertaken to ensure that all the present funding is understood and the future funding requirements are also understood, including any savings that either the council or those NHS organisations may require in the short or the long term. So for me, it is of crucial importance that that work is completed so that there is a full understanding of exactly how much the new service model is going to cost. I think the second issue for me is ensuring that, and I've already alluded to the extremely busy environment that everybody is in, that focus continues to be placed on delivering the programme itself, that there is the human resource, in other words, the capacity required from all the officers who need to be working together on this to actually see this work through to completion. So there is a potential risk to the programme should there be too many other distractions to people's work. I don't believe there's to be an issue at the moment, but it is a risk that needs observing, not least because, as I've just said, also, you know, the council has in particular had to deal with inspections and it has more inspection activity to come, which inevitably can take people's time away from this work. So keeping an eye on the capacity required to design and deliver the new service is going to be very important. And then I think the final thing that I would say is communication with children, young people, parents and carers is the other area that needs close attention. This is a major piece of transformation. It's important that all of those who are going to be affected by it and can help shape it know what is happening. So again, very important that communication and engagement are kept at the forefront of this work and that there is sufficient resource to ensure that children and families understand what's being undertaken, what the differences will be in the future, and they know as and when how they can shape that process. So I think I will pause at that point and be very happy to add any further information or take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Committee, we're asked to provide feedback. So I'm looking at you now to see whether there's any feedback you want to give immediately. Otherwise, my assumption is that you'd be very happy to receive comments by email over the coming weeks. But Richard, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, I was interested to see the risks that you've identified for the programme, but the one thing I haven't seen mentioned is benefits. And having a benefits register is just as important, because that's what, when the programme's complete, that's what you should be measuring to see if we actually achieve what we said he did. Is that something that has been done as well?
Yeah, so there's a piece of work that is being led by Claire Shields, who is responsible for commissioning within Children's Services with other colleagues to pull together inevitably a phrase, but a balanced scorecard. So the benefits that are intended to flow from this transformation will be reflected in improvements in key indicators, either better services, better outcomes, or better feedback being more positive. So absolutely, there is a framework for measuring improvement.
Claire, can I ask you to come in there?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Shields. I'm the Corporate Director for Commissioning and Partnerships. And as Mark said, pretty much part of the team working on delivering this. And an important reminder of why we're doing this. So we've got two elements of work, really. We want to make sure that we are thinking all the time about how we can prepare our young people for adulthood across a range of domains. So friends, communities, relationships, their education, their employment, their training, independent living, and a range of things that make life good. And that's a really important, big piece of work with a commission and strategy alongside, and lots of partners working towards it. The second part is making sure the service delivery that we have for children and young people who might have some additional needs is as smooth as it's possible could be. So avoiding cliff edges at 18 and making sure that we're really supporting beyond a settled adulthood and a settled life. So there's two big pieces of work. One is how do we make this right for all of our children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities? And we have some mechanisms that we will report on as we move forward. And then also how do we smooth the path for those that are in the receipt of our services to make sure that we do that really well. And that's a really important part of what we're doing, and lots of joint working with adult services, children's services and NHS colleagues around that so that we improve transitions and into adulthood and make them as safe as possible and as steady as possible. So we have a range of things we're doing around mapping that. Some of that is about the money we spend and making sure that we're getting good value for it. So making sure that the money we spend is delivering the outcomes we want and delivering good value for money. So there's an element of reporting on the finances. There's also some things about the experiences of our families and our children and young people in the services that we receive. So we will be tracking what that looks like. And there's an element of how does it feel for our staff? How does it feel for the people that are working with us and getting the culture right to offer those services? So we have completed a workforce survey already, and we're just analysing the results of that. And this week, as part of Send Local Offer Live, we've been doing some survey work with our parents and carers and our young people as well to hear from them what would make the biggest difference. We're pulling all of that together, help us understand where we need to change. We had a lot of feedback already, which was why we set up the programme, and we'll be tracking that through. So a big piece of work, really important piece of work, and one we're well on the way with, but absolutely we need to make sure we're having the impact as we move forward.
Any further questions from anyone at the moment? Nope. Nope. Looks as though that's fine. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't on. Lovely to see you, Matt. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Weller. It's good to be here. So for me, parts of my report have been covered off by some of the other reports actually today, but I'm incredibly proud to be part of the leadership team that supports the Leaving Care Service. We've had significant investment into the service over the last 12 months, which has been hugely beneficial for us, building our relationship with our young people and also partner agencies. We were Team of the Year as well over the last 12 months, which I'm incredibly proud of for our staff. We have a committed, passionate group of personal advisors that really do build those working relationships with our young people. We've obviously just gone through an offset inspection, and it was really good to see the team pull together with additional pressures as we try to deliver our day-to-day jobs. We noticed, what I wanted to raise as a key point is the Care Leaver Delivery Group, which I know feeds into the Corporate Parenting Board. It's absolutely a success with key bits from the Care Leaver Delivery Group, the Care Leaver Covenant, 5 pillars, tying into our action plan, which help us deliver over the 12-month period. It's joined by multi-agency professionals, so it's not just children's services. We have key allies such as health and housing that join us, which is really, really good, and helps us deliver over the year. A key development over the last 12 months is the opening of Kirtleton Avenue. We currently have 8 residents in and soon to be 10. We run the building through peer landlords, which has been incredibly successful for us. 2 residents within the building. We've had our first residents committee, as we now have other residents in the building, which has absolutely been phenomenal for us. And we have key agencies also coming into the hub area downstairs where our duty workers sit, which has been great to see some of our care leavers, our young people coming in to use that space. I'd like to draw your attention to some of the key points in terms of our performance. We've seen strong numbers around our In Touch figure with our young people. So the age range between 17 and 18, we're at 99%, which is really good, and 19 to 21 at 96%. Our pathway plans are up to 91%, but again, we are making sure that the quality is there. We regularly do dip samples, for example. We've changed the format of our pathway plan to make it more analytical in its delivery. We've also had an increase in our education, employment and training rates, as highlighted in the report. And we, moving forward, have meetings set up with the DWP and with our NEET re-engagement team to look at how we support our young people that aren't in education, employment and training, and how we can get them back into it. We also have regular meetings with our housing colleagues who support us and making sure that our young people stay in suitable accommodation. So again, it's all about relationships. Moving forward, we have a number of key tasks that we need to look at. For example, advocacy and making use of our NIAS contract to make sure that our young people are heard and represented. We are working with them. They're coming into our team meetings. We've, again, re-advertised within our service. So again, coming from a strong base. We absolutely value our young people's voices, and I know Kay had referenced some of the work that our peer landlords and other residents have given us in terms of the look and feel of Curtiston Avenue. And again, we look to build on that through the year. We're also looking at training for our staff, again, and continued training around the quality of supervision and analysis that we're giving. And that's been afforded to us by the investment we've had in our service. So we've had an additional team manager post brought into our service. We've had an additional 2 senior personal advisor roles that will specialize in the education, employment and training side of things, as well as the Staying Close project. So a lot, as well as 3, additional personal advisors that have joined the team. So a number of really positive things for us. And we look forward to the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, obviously good to see you again, and thank you for your report. Very good to see about the keeping in touch figures. I think that is extremely really good and very positive, because like I say, it's always about the young person, because we need to make sure their voices are heard and everything. Just regarding about unsuitable accommodations, could you just sort of maybe enlighten as to what is actually deemed an unsuitable accommodation for that young person, please? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So for us, we track our unsuitable young people in unsuitable accommodation, and it may be, for example, those that are in custody or those that are accessing bed and breakfast. We have revised practice standards. So as soon as somebody is in, for example, bed and breakfast accommodation, we chair a meeting with staff and relevant agencies to look at how we move them on. And that's how we've been able to put us into the position we're in today, where there's only 3 in bed and breakfast. It obviously, with custody, we look at 3 months prior to their release, how we're working with the prison, with housing in the areas that they want to be released to, and how we support them moving on. So it's really around custody and bed and breakfast are the predominant ones we have. Thank you.
Carol and then Mark.
Just me then. Lovely, thank you. I'm just looking at the numbers not in education, the NEETs. And so it's looking like 30% of the 17 to 18-year-olds are NEETs and 49% of the 19 to 21-year-olds. And I just wonder what we can do. And I wonder whether we could help with, I don't know, driving lessons. I did mention driving lessons some time ago, but what are the challenges facing, especially the 19 to 21-year-olds, which means they are NEET? What's going on there that we might be able to address? Matt, sorry, go for it.
Thank you. So I know that this question has come up before, and it's quite a complex situation. There could be a number of factors that are leading to our young people feeling like that. That they're not able to. For example, mental health is a big factor, social isolation, things like that. We are able to provide, through charity organisations, though, support for driving lessons. And if we knew that, on an individual basis, if we knew that someone was struggling to get into employment or training, we would bend over backwards to support them in doing so. What I think will be a key marker moving forward is our work with DWP, with our NEET re-engagement team, and really drilling into the cohorts of young people and looking at individually how we can target them and getting them into education, employment or training.
Thank you, because I mean we're reporting here up until the age of 21, but I wonder whether it's possible to have a snapshot of where they are at 25. What sort of state are they in? Have they sorted themselves out, or are we leaving them on a downward path, or are they going back up after we've reported? I just see that they're sort of dropping off a bit of a cliff there, and that just worries me a bit.
Thank you. Obviously, I don't have the information to hand, but that's something we can look at. What I would say is we've also had 30 young people that are in higher education, university, and 6 graduating this year. So I'm quite happy to pull that data together and present maybe in a little bit more detail. But I certainly wouldn't turn anyone away if they needed support as they become adults, younger adults. Yeah.
Are you okay? I agree, and we've spoken a number of times, haven't we, about how we as a council can perhaps open our apprenticeship schemes and so on with a bias towards our looked after children. I know we shouldn't be biased, but in this respect, we're their parents, so we are allowed to be biased. And we should be looking at that. Paul, you wanted to come in, or is it Paul or Claire? Somebody's got.
So we have got a strategy to deal with education, employment and training, and we're trying to deliver that and implement that through the Care Leaver Delivery Group. It's more complicated than just opportunities. So we're aiming to expand the opportunities for our care leavers right up to age 25, but it's also supporting them to take advantage of those opportunities. So Matt mentioned mental health, emotional well-being. I think right across the country that is seen as probably the biggest barrier to people engaging and sustaining education, employment and training. So part of our EAT strategy is bringing together some of our other sort of arms of our care leaver strategy, i.e. making sure young people's emotional well-being and health is good, because they need all the basic sort of building blocks, young people, i.e. good, safe accommodation in the right place, good emotional well-being and health, good networks of people supporting them, to then take those opportunities that we can help them identify. So it's a rounded kind of strategy that we're trying to deliver. We're doing better on accommodation. We're increasing our kind of networking in the community. Just started some community networking in Bridport to try and build up support networks for our community in Bridport, and also identify employers in Bridport that might offer training and work experience opportunities, and that went really well. We're looking to expand that across the county. We do have a pathways to employment in the council, and Claire might want to come in around that, because I think we've got some good news about a particularly young person that Claire's been engaging with. So, and we are supposed to work with care leavers up to 25 where they want our support, if in that age bracket from 21 to 25. So we are touching base and trying to get back in touch with that group of people between 21 and 25, even where we're not supporting them, just to try and let them know you can come back to us. So there is an opportunity for us when we can get hold of them and when they engage enough to tell us about how they're doing and offer extra support.
Paul, Mark, you wanted to come in?
Do you have or keep any data on rurality and how that affects care leavers with the lack of transport and the lack of opportunities compared with the more urban ones?
I think the answer is no, looking at my colleagues, but we could do that fairly quickly. We do map and we do know where all our care leavers live. And they don't all live in Dorset, actually, because some people stay where they were in placement before they become 18 and left care. But we can map that really quickly, and then we'd know from looking at those children's files who out of them were engaged in education, employment and training. So that's a good exercise that we could do and would be informative, and we could come back with that information at next corporate parenting board.
Okay, you wanted to come in on that?
Thank you. Just to bring you back to what young people have told us about what's important to them, and Paul's not just saying what he just said. Actually, when I talked about the second priority, education, employment and training, out of 10 priorities, that was their 10th one. So their first one was about being safe and settled in accommodation, health and well-being, relationships, good advice, and right down the bottom was education, employment and training. So it's classic Maslow. If I haven't got these other things in place, how on earth can I do those other things? And it just sometimes takes our young people a bit longer to get there, and it just takes us a bit longer to help them get there. And actually sometimes young people aren't there by 25, and that's a whole different story. But that's what they've told us. And they didn't say it wasn't important to them. They said it's important, but we can't do it until we've got that stuff right. And we know that young people are telling us what they need around their mental health support. And that's why we're working on that priority. And that's why we're going back out. So aligning all of that to what we're doing.
I think that's really interesting to know. So thank you very much for that. And it gives us a very clear steer, doesn't it, on what we need to do to help those young people. Thank you very much, Matt, for that. That's excellent. We're at the sort of end of the formal agenda. Before I go on to next meeting and so on, I just want to invite Byron, if there is anything, this is your first corporate parenting meeting, are there any comments you want to make? If you'd like to make them outside the meeting, by all means do, but if there's anything you'd like to make at the moment, then now's your chance.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess it's a way to make sure that I was paying attention as well. I was actually just thinking about this and all the points, and I would like to thank all people who presented here today. It's fascinating, and although I was on the education side in children's services for the last two and a half years, find the side fascinating. And clearly a lot of hard work's gone in there, and some good questions coming out today, and good things for me to think about as well, taking this side of things and along with Mark as well. So there's a lot of work to do. Clearly, we can see that. I think we're going in the right direction. It's nice coming into this children's services or taking over the portfolio at the place where it is at the minute, as opposed to where it may have been in the past. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say, Chair. I know you and I will be meeting up soon. I've still got that in my diary to come back to you, and just thank all the officers for the work that they do, because clearly a lot of work goes in, and we see reports and we see minutes and that sort of stuff, but there's endless amounts of work that goes into everything that people do, and I just wanted to thank everyone for that.
Thank you very much. I think it's quite obvious the amount of work you put in, but when we read reports, what we don't get until we meet you and we talk to you is the amount of commitment you have to our young people, and I think that that's hugely important for us to acknowledge. I never cease to be impressed by Kay. I'm convinced that Kay knows by name every young person in Dorset. I'm sure she can't possibly, but she gives every impression that she does. And other officers as well. I was at the College House the other day, and a young person came out and spoke to Louise. Louise knew exactly who she was, knew her by name, had a conversation about something that had happened some time ago, remarked upon the colour of hair and so on. The commitment of our staff I think is extraordinary, and I spend a good deal of my time now defending and supporting the commitment of our children's services, which I think is exemplary, and my thanks for all of you, for all of the work you do. I found it hard enough to bring up my own children. My children would vouch for that. And I just am so impressed by all of you. So thank you. You know, I'm always saying thank you, and I really do mean it. So thank you all very much indeed. Next item is our date of our next meeting, and it says Thursday, the 23rd of November. That, of course, is our next formal meeting. If you're going to look at me and say, when's our next informal meeting, I don't have a clue, but I know a person who does.
So the next informal meeting will be held on Thursday, the 27th of July.
Lovely, thank you very much, Megan. We don't have any urgent items, do we? And we don't have any exempt business. So it's just gone 5:05. So thank you all very much. You all knew that I've got to go to a difficult meeting in a little while, and you all played ball with me. Thank you very much indeed.